Hello, my dear children. Today we are going to start a comprehension that is my shadow. Children, this is a comprehension based on a poem. Till now, we have studied comprehension based on stories, even paragraph, and now this is a comprehension based on a poem that is My Shadow. Okay, the name of the poem is My Shadow and it is written by Robert Louis Stevenson. Children, Robert Louis Stevenson was a very prominent Scottish poet and author. He has written many books on fiction and travel. In this poem, My Shadow, we will see how a child gets excited and thrilled by his own shadow. The child is curious and wonders how the shadow keeps changing for everyone. He is impressed by his own shadow and so he starts noticing everything about his shadow. The shadow moves with him whenever he goes and does everything the child does. This builds more curiosity in the child. So, children, let us read the poem and see what the child says about its shadow. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see. He is very, very like me from the heels up to the head, and I see him jump before me when I jump into my bed. Children, in these lines, the poet says that he has a little shadow that keeps following him wherever he goes. At the same time, the poet also wonders what is the use of shadow. Further, the poet noticed that the shadow's appearance is just like him from toe to heel. He also observes that his shadow goes to bed before him. So, he is fascinated by the shadow and very curious to know more about him. The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow. Not at all like proper children, which is always very slow. For he sometimes stood up taller like an Indian rubber ball, and he sometimes gets so little that there is none of him at all. In these lines, the poet says that he finds it funny to observe how the shadow keeps changing his shape. He compares his shadow with other children and says that he does not behave like them. Other children are generally slow in everything, but the shadow is very faster than them in changing form. Children, the poet further observes that sometimes the shadow becomes taller than him like a huge rubber ball, and sometimes he becomes very small. Okay, understood? So let us move with the third paragraph, third stanza. He hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. He stays so close beside me, he is a coward, you can see. I did think shame to stick to nursie as the shadow sticks to me. In these lines, the poet says that the shadow is a coward as it always stays beside him. He thinks that the shadow is afraid of living alone, and that's why it always sticks to him like a nanny. Nursie here is the meaning, you can say it's a nanny. Okay. And the last paragraph. One morning, very early, before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup. But my lazy little shadow, like an errant sleepyhead, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in bed. Children, here the poet says that one day he woke up early morning before the sunrise. He went out to see the flowers and he found morning dews on each petal, but he did not find his shadow behind. So the poet calls his shadow lazy because he thought that he was still sleeping. But children, the fact is shadow are formed when sunlight falls on your body. Yes, since the sun did not rise, still the poet woke up. He did not find the shadow. The poet was confused and wondered why his shadow did not wake up when he went to bed at night before the poet. The poet thinks that the shadow plays trick with him all the time. So children, isn't it a very nice poem? I hope you all enjoyed reading and understanding it. Isn't it? Yes. So now we have to do the exercises of it in the notebook.